The camera fades in on a gray Arizona horizon. The courthouse stands like a silent judge, its walls bearing the weight of decades of secrets. A chill wind sweeps through the parking lot, bearing with it whispers of betrayal, broken promises, and the wan echoes of a dream once known as spiritual freedom. Behind the wheel of a black SUV, parked close to the entrance, Kody Brown gazes out the windshield, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. His reflection shudders against the glass. This isn't the man who stood tall before cameras with 4 wives, evangelizing love and harmony. This is a man confronted with the reality of the life he built and shattered, bit by bit. The sign on the door states, State of Arizona versus Kody Brown, Polygamy and Financial Misconduct. Hearing, and for the first time in his entire life, Kody is unsure whether his own name will make it through the verdict. How did it come to this, he grumbles, his words nearly lost in the hush. The courtroom within buzzes with tension. Reporters, one-time enthusiasts, and even some estranged family members occupy the benches. All the cameras are trained on the door through which Kody will soon enter. Robyn is seated in the front row, her hands shaking as she holds a silver cross necklace. Sitting behind her, Meri, Janelle, and Christine sit separated. Not together, but together in unspoken defiance. The judge enters. All stand. Kody enters, shoulders squared and eyes tired. His golden curls are streaked with gray, his face gaunt from months of battling in the courts. He sits down, casting a swift glance towards his ex-wives. Christine does not drop her eyes. Her glance is steady, even pitying. The court clerk starts reading charges. Mr. Brown, you are being investigated on charges of fraudulent distribution of property, financial fraud, and breach of state marriage statutes regarding plural marriage. The words burn, each one piercing years of rationalization and self-permission. This isn't about love anymore, Christine tells Janelle. It's about power. It always was. The first witness called, Meri Brown. The courtroom goes silent as she approaches the stand. Her heels click sharply against the floor, a sound Kody has heard 1,000 times, but never like this. Meri takes the oath, her voice steady, her face serene. She glances at Kody for the first time in months. Kody and I divorced legally in 2014, she explains, so that he could marry Robyn and adopt her children. I consented because I believed in the family. But what I didn't realize at the time was how much he'd already begun shutting the rest of us out. The crowd leans in. Even Robyn's eyes widen. Meri goes on, speaking gently but with a sharp edge. This had never been about religion anymore. It was about control. Financial control, emotional control, and control of the image. When he lost us, he lost that control. And now he's losing everything else. Kody's jaw clenches. He struggles not to glance at her, but he can feel the bite of her truth against every nerve. The man who once said love should be multiplied, not divided. Meri adds, ended up dividing his own heart until there was nothing left to love. The courtroom murmurs. Even the judge shifts slightly in her chair. And for the first time, the nation begins to see not a man of faith, but a man cornered by the very system he built. As Meri steps down, Kody's lawyer stands up to cross-examine. But too late, the harm is already done. The jury has witnessed the hurt behind the composure. Then Janelle is summoned. Her testimony is more subdued but dense, filled with disappointment. She does not shout or sob. She merely delivers facts that cut deeper than any charge. When we were on Coyote Pass, Janelle starts. I thought we were creating something together. We both spent money on the property. Then documents began to go missing. The property was being transferred into Robyn's name. Kody told me it was for legal protection. But protection for whom? Kody fidgets in his seat. Robyn bows her head, refusing to meet his gaze. Janelle stares at him straight on now. You told me this family was founded on trust, Kody. Trust is not a loophole in the law. It's truth. And you lost your truth a long time ago. The gallery quivers again. Each sentence reverberates off the walls like thunder, because sometimes the most compelling testimony isn't yelled. It's spoken by someone who used to trust you. At noon, there's an electric feeling of tension in the courtroom. The judge requests a short recess. Cameras click as Kody rises, hugging Robyn for support. But even she is far away from him, pale-faced, glassy-eyed. Christine stands in the hallway by a window, staring out at the desert outside. When a reporter asks her how it feels to see Kody so, she hesitates before speaking. "I'm sad," she says, matter-of-factly, "but I'm also free. For years we were instructed that this was God's plan. Perhaps this, all of this is his way of telling us that control masquerading as love isn't holy. It's dangerous." Her sentiments go viral in a matter of hours. Back in the courtroom, the prosecution presents the most surprising evidence so far. A stack of sealed 2019 documents representing internal money transfers from Brown Family Entertainment LLC to Robyn's private account. They are tiny at first, then enormous. $60,000, $120,000, $400,000, all tagged as housing maintenance and family operations. The room gasps. Even the judge looks surprised. Kody's attorney protests, but the protest is overruled. The prosecutor's voice becomes icy. "Mr. Brown, can you tell me about these transactions?" Kody tries to clear his throat, voice breaking. "Those were family expenses that we shared. We all agreed to." "Did Janelle agree?" "No." "Did Meri agree?" "No." "Did Christine agree?" Kody hesitates. "She didn't object." The prosecutor's smile is hair-thin. "Silence isn't consent, Mr. Brown." A ripple goes through the gallery, and for one frozen moment, even Kody appears to see that his decades of domination, his pomp and circumstance, his justification of spiritual marriage are dissolving before him. The courtroom does not merely convict him of violating laws, it convicts him of violating hearts. Underscore, 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 under. The end of the day, the judge pronounces that testimonies will resume the following day, with Christine Brown being the next to testify. The mention of her name is enough to send a shiver down the room. Christine, the wife who began it all, the first one to leave, the one who never looked back. Kody stands up slowly, his expression a shield of defiance over an eyeshade of terror. When he moves to get out, Christine's gaze reaches across the aisle and catches him. She says nothing. She does not have to. Her expression conveys everything. This is what happens when you made your choice. Outside, the desert sun sets, a burning orange seeping into blackness, much like the world Kody used to dominate. The cameras burst, the reporters yell his name, but Kody strides through them like a specter, a man torn between religion and ruin. And as he enters his car, Robyn's silence wounds deeper than any sentence. She gazed at him and whispered, her words barely audible, "Kody, what if this is God's way of ending it?" The car engine roars to life, but the question remains, the first seed of doubt in a man who never believed he'd lose it all. Tomorrow, when Christine testifies, secrets laid to rest for decades will at last resurface, and the truth will determine whether Kody Brown goes free or crashes forever. The next day breaks over Flagstaff in an odd hush. The courthouse remains the same, cold, gray, unemotional. But behind the doors, everyone realizes this is the day that might make everything different. Christine Brown arrives at the courthouse doors in a quiet blue dress and resolute calm. No jewelry, no glitz, no pretension. A woman who's already gone through her fire and lived. Reporters surround her, microphones flashing like fireflies. "Christine, do you believe Kody should go to prison? Will you take the stand against him?" She doesn't reply. She simply smiles weakly and murmurs, "I'm here for the truth." Inside, Kody refuses to meet her eyes. His jaw clenches, eyes darkened. Robyn holds his hand, but even her touch is at arm's length, like two phantoms grasping a dissolving dream. The judge takes her seat. Court is now in session. "Mrs. Christine Brown, please take the stand." Christine walks forward, the room falling silent. Every creak of the floor echoes. Every breath feels heavy. She swears, then sits. Her voice is calm, nearly serene. "Your Honor," she starts, "I was spiritually married to Kody Brown for more than 25 years. I believed in our life, in our family, and in our faith. But what I witnessed behind closed doors was not faith. It was fear." There's a ripple of whispers in the room. Christine goes on. Fear that if we challenged him, we'd be disloyal. Fear that if we sought autonomy, we'd be thankful. And fear that if we left, we'd be forgotten. Kody's eyes flash, the slightest glimmer of anger. The prosecutor leans forward. Mrs. Brown, can you tell me when that fear started? She nods slowly. It began when he legally divorced Meri to wed Robyn. We rationalized it was for the kids, for adoption. But that's when things became different. It wasn't about love any longer. And in that instant, millions viewing nationwide understand this isn't about polygamy. It's about control, power, and the suppressed misery behind a beaming TV family. Christine's voice becomes quieter now, but each word cuts like a knife. When I left in 2021, it wasn't out of jealousy or anger. It was because I finally realized how tiny I'd made myself, trying to get into Kody's definition of love. I wanted my kids to get a glimpse of what freedom was. The prosecutor nods. Did Mr. Brown ever threaten or emotionally manipulate you after you left? Christine pauses, looking briefly at Kody. Not exactly, but he manipulated the show, the family, even religion so that I would appear to be a betrayer. Each scene was distorted. Each confession cut to portray me as the bad guy. But I did not leave the family. The family left me. The judge leans forward. Kody shifts uncomfortably in his seat, massaging his temples. Robyn weeps quietly to his side, and then Christine breathes deeply. And lets fall the revelation that will alter everything. There's something else, she says. Something I never shared with the cameras. The courtroom tenses. Even the prosecutor is taken aback. Christine goes on. Kody asked all of us to sign a family covenant agreement back in 2018. Something he claimed would safeguard our spiritual marriage. What it actually did was give decision-making authority and control over money completely over to him. We didn't realize it, but hidden in the fine print, he had legal rights to all of our joint assets, our show money, business profits, everything. Gasps ripple through the courtroom. Meri covers her mouth. Janelle's face hardens. Robyn looks frozen. The prosecutor quickly approaches the bench. Your Honor, we request permission to present the covenant document as evidence. The judge nods. Proceed. As the paper shows up on the large screen, Christine's voice reads over it, quivering somewhat. He said it was just a formality, something spiritual. We believed him. I believed him. But trust is the simplest thing to turn into a weapon when you're the one with the pen. Kody pounds his fist on the table. That's not true. He barks. You all knew what it was. The judge's gavel comes down. Mr. Brown, calm down or I will find you in contempt. He slumps back, panting, his picture of control broken before the cameras. For the first time, the viewers see Kody not as the self-assured patriarch, but as a man disintegrating under the pressure of his own decision. Christine gazes at him now, straight on, her voice shaking with emotion. Kody, I loved you. I invested years of my life in you. I believed in the things that you preached. That love must be multiplied, not divided. But all you multiplied was pain. Tears streamed down her face, but her voice remained steady. You used faith as a defense. You used family as a tool. And now the truth is all that's left. The courtroom is quiet with only the distant sobbing of Robyn. Even Kody's lawyer is looking down, unable to even catch his client's eye. The voice of the prosecutor is gentle now, one that shows respect. Mrs. Brown, what would you like the court to hear? Above everything else, Christine draws in a deep breath. That polygamy, the way Kody experienced it, wasn't choice. It was control, and that control dismantled everything. Our marriage, our children's tranquility, and the dream we once had faith in. She pauses, her words that follow rattling the room. If this court takes away his right to practice polygamy, then perhaps it's not punishment. Perhaps it's mercy. The gallery erupts in a collective hush. Kody is broken looking, his eyes bloodshot, lips compressed, jaw tight. The arrogant man who used to call himself a prophet of new love now resembles a toppled king, without a realm. And suddenly the courtroom ceases to be a trial, and begins to feel like Judgment Day. Following the session, the judge declares a brief recess. Reporters scurry out to submit their stories, their headlines already shouting across social media. Christine reveals secret contract that could dismantle Kody's dynasty. In the corridor, Christine exits with quiet poise. A young reporter asks, Christine, do you forgive him? She lingers on the courthouse steps. Forgiveness isn't a gift, she says. It's a process. I'm working on it. The crowd clears around her as she moves away, the Arizona sun enveloping her like a gesture of peace. But within the courthouse a storm is building. Kody stands alone within the vacant courtroom, his eyes fixed on the covenant contract displayed on the screen. Robyn whispers, "Kody, please. Let's just get this over with. Let's go home." He doesn't budge. "They want to kill me," he mutters. "They want to take everything that made me who I am and eradicate it." But the reality is, he did that himself already. The door slams behind them, the sound resonating like a gavel hit in an empty chamber. Tomorrow's testimony will uncover who actually had control of the money, and whether Kody's vision of family was ever real in the first place. The atmosphere in the courtroom grew thick, almost movie-like. Robyn Brown stiffened, her gaze flicking between Kody and the judge, then to the array of cameras along the back of the room. She had been the quiet defender for years, the one who stood up for Kody when the others left him. But today, she could no longer remain silent. The secret she had helped hide was being torn apart in front of the whole nation. The single stroke of the gavel rang out like thunder. "Mrs. Robyn Brown, please come up to the stand." All eyes in that courtroom watched as she stood up. Even Kody's glare, desperate and cold, couldn't deter her from stepping forward. And that's when it occurred. The courtroom that sympathized with Kody Brown started turning on him. As Robyn adjusted the microphone stand, her hand shook a little, but the tone of the prosecutor was even, unhurried, almost tender, like one encouraging a confession that had taken too long to be made. "Mrs. Brown, you've stood by your husband for over a decade, but we've received documents suggesting that some financial assets were moved under your name after the first 3 wives separated from the family. Is that correct?" The audience leaned forward. Even the judge tilted slightly. Kody's attorney objected. "Irrelevant to the case of polygamy legality, Your Honor." But the judge's reply was swift. "Overruled. The witness may answer." A long silence followed. Then Robyn, her voice breaking, said the words that would shift everything. "Yes, I moved them. Kody told me to." Kody's face turned red, not from embarrassment, but rage. He slammed his hand on the defense table. "That's not true, Robyn. You're twisting it." The judge's gavel struck again, demanding silence, but Robyn continued, tears filling her eyes. "He instructed me to transfer the money so that the other wives would not lay claim to that which was theirs. He indicated that they had betrayed him, that they did not deserve to take a penny from Coyote Pass. I did not wish to do it, but he indicated it was for the benefit of the family." Christine's eyes went wide. Meri and Janelle looked at each other, their faces ashen with a combination of vindication and tragedy. They'd known this betrayal in their belly for years, but hearing it, sworn in, was something else. The courtroom as Robyn went on. The prosecution played a taped voicemail. Kody had left her just months earlier, before the case started. His voice, one of assurance, of manipulation, of chill. "We can't let them steal the land, Robyn. You and I will defend it. What's ours is ours. They made their decisions. Move it now." The sound made the courtroom sound as if the past come back to haunt them. Kody's glance swept to the jury, his heart sinking, as he knew one statement had already caused more harm than any witness ever could. Robyn's screams filled the air. "I loved him. I thought I was saving our family. I didn't realize I was destroying it. And that was it." The story changed. Kody was no longer the victim of anti-polygamy legislation. He was the master of his own destruction. The empire Kody built on loyalty was collapsing under the weight of truth. In front of the courthouse, news commentators and anchors were already spinning the tale. "Robyn Brown's testimony can put an end to any hope of leniency for Kody. The sister wives patriarch is headed for moral and legal meltdown." Social media erupted. #Justice for Christine trending across the country in an hour. Excerpts from Robyn's meltdown went viral. Million views overnight. The American public, once enthralled with the Brown family's plural marriage experiment, watched in shock as the very foundation of their reality unraveled before their eyes. Kody, the so-called leader of a spiritual family, was being depicted as a man who weaponized faith to control, manipulate, and silence. And at the center of it all stood Robyn, once his most devoted wife, now the state's most formidable witness. Kody remained unmoving, eyes fixed in front. The sounds of the courtroom receded, his eyesight dulled. He remembered the beginning of Sister Wives, the laughter, the family meals, the children in the yard. TLC cameras recording the perfect polygamous marriage. But now, all he heard were the sounds of doors slamming shut, one wife after another walking away. How did I lose everything? The reply lingered in the silence. He hadn't lost it. He'd pushed it away. When court resumed after a brief recess, the judge looked at Kody's attorney. Do you want to cross-examine the witness? The attorney paused. Kody snapped his head in a sharp nod. Yes, Your Honor. He stood walking deliberately. Mrs. Brown, you've stated my client told you to conceal assets, but you've benefited from the assets too. New houses, cars, vacations. How is this court supposed to find you an innocent party? Robyn didn't blink. I'm not innocent, she said, voice steady. But I'm not the one who preached truth while living a lie. The room went silent again. Even the prosecutor didn't interrupt. Because at that moment, the public saw something they never expected. The wife who had once protected Kody Brown had just destroyed him with honesty. As Robyn stepped down from the stand, Christine and Janelle quietly nodded to each other. Something had shifted forever. And outside, in the glare of flashing press lights, one reporter's report captured what millions already sensed. This isn't just a trial about polygamy. It's the fall of Kody Brown, the man who thought he was untouchable. Flashes from the camera illuminated Kody's face as he left the courthouse, reporters yelling questions after him. The courtroom was quiet, the sort of quiet that seemed alive, dense, buzzing with tension. Kody Brown was seated at the defense table, fists balled, eyes red. His reality he had constructed on faith, domination, and charm, now teetered on an edge. Only a few hours before, Robyn's testimony had opened up the truth. And now, the coup de grace, the one person who knew him better than anyone, the one who saw his kingdom fall apart brick by brick, Christine Brown. She stood up, holding a folder of papers. Her face was pale but firm. The audience leaned forward. Cameras zoomed in. Even Kody didn't flinch. Mrs. Christine Brown, the judge instructed, please proceed to the stand. That one sentence signaled the end. Christine fidgeted with the microphone. Her tone was measured, but held years of unspoken hurt. For years I believed in our family's message, that love could be shared, that faith could make us whole. But what Kody created wasn't love, it was control. Kody shifted uncomfortably in his seat, his jaw clenching. The prosecutor took a step forward. Mrs. Brown, are you telling us Mr. Brown manipulated you with faith? Christine nodded. Yes, all the rules, all the choices, it all served him. We weren't wives, we were validation. Validation that he could make the impossible happen. But when the cameras stopped rolling and the funds were drying up, the truth revealed itself. She stared straight at Kody. He only loved power. The courtroom whispered, a couple of gasps. Even the judge raised an eyebrow. When truth walks in, even the strongest empires turn to dust. Christine opened her folder. Inside were replicas of bank transfers, land deeds, and emails, all testifying to one pattern: Kody's financial moves to cover himself up, but leave his wives with nothing. The prosecutor took the pages, handing them over to the judge. Your Honor, these demonstrate property and asset transfers that were made under Mr. Brown's power, disguised through shell accounts that were traced to Mrs. Robyn Brown. These have been done after his other wives separated. Kody's attorney protested once more, yelling irrelevant, character attack, old transactions. But the gavel of the judge shut him up. Overruled. The court will consider the evidence. Kody let out a sharp breath. His empire, all of Coyote Pass, every television contract, every promise whispered, was falling apart before millions of viewers on their computers. Kody's lawyer attempted to counterpunch, his voice dripping with disdain. Mrs. Brown, you abandoned your husband years ago. Is this testimony a matter of personal revenge? Christine didn't flinch. If the truth is vengeance, then yes. I desire justice, not revenge. Justice for all the women who trusted him. The courtroom rang out with silent applause, then fell silent again, as the bailiff ordered them to quiet down. The lawyer leaned in harder. You were aware of the lifestyle. You lived with it for years. Christine stared him straight in the eye. I lived with love, not with lies. There is a difference. Christine's truth wasn't testimony. It was the sound of Kody's kingdom falling down. The prosecution played one final video clip, previously unreleased footage from Sister Wives archives. It filmed Kody in a private confessional. Years earlier, he laughed bitterly, adding, "They think this is about love. It's about leadership. Someone has to be in charge. And that's me." The courtroom responded in an instant. Reporters were scribbling, phones were buzzing, cameras were popping, the faces of the jurors hardened. Kody's lawyer slouched in his seat. He knew it was all over. The judge requested that order be restored, but the energy could not be contained. Kody Brown's fall was now public record. Christine gazed toward the judge. "Your Honor, I gave myself to a man who promised equality and gave us hierarchy. I want this court to hear me. Polygamy didn't fail for faith. It failed for manipulation, for one man using God's name to use himself." She faced Kody for the final time. Her tone softened. "You could have had love, Kody, true love, but you opted for power. And now you've lost both." Even Robyn, who sat behind him, cried. The judge nodded to Christine and released her. But her words lingered in the air like scripture. As the courtroom adjourned before the verdict, tension thrummed through the assembly. Outside, fans, reporters and activists clogged the sidewalk, brandishing signs that read, "No one above the law. Justice for the Sister Wives." Inside, Kody gazed blankly forward. His lawyer breathed possibilities, appeals, settlements, but he wasn't hearing them. He was repeating Christine's words over in his mind, each syllable a stake in the heart of his legacy. "You could have had love, but you chose power." For the first time, he questioned whether she was correct. Hours passed and all stood as the judge returned. The courtroom lights dimmed a little bit, cameras flocked, and the nation held its breath. The judge's voice was measured, weighted, conclusive. After considering the testimony, evidence, and statements of witnesses, this court determines that Mr. Kody Brown has committed acts of financial deception and emotional coercion in the name of religious liberty. A collective gasp. In addition, the court is aware that the practice of plural marriage in this context has produced demonstrable harm to the individuals who participated in it. Therefore, the state's motion to end Mr. Brown's recognition under religious exemption is hereby granted. The room exploded. Journalists rushed to submit breaking notices. Polygamy, as Kody had practiced it, was now officially declared unlawful under his name. The judge wasn't done. "Mr. Brown, you have abused faith and family for private profit. You are ordered to pay a fine, to be prohibited from joint property ownership with any previous spouse, and to come under financial supervision until restitution is made." Kody rose to his feet, attempting to speak, but his voice broke. "You can't terminate what God instituted." The judge gazed down icily. "This court doesn't take orders from you, Mr. Brown. It takes orders from the truth." Normally, in a single sentence, the man who claimed to speak for God was silenced by justice. Christine and Janelle hugged softly. Meri sat in the corner, tears streaming silently down her face. Even Robyn, broken and exhausted, gazed up at Kody with sadness and incredulity. The mob outside erupted, as the verdict was broadcast live on all of the major networks. For tens of millions of Americans who had been watching Sister Wives for years, this wasn't courtroom drama. It was the fall of a man who represented the price of unbridled power. As Kody was led away, head hung low, one journalist yelled the last question that crystallized the moment, "Kody, was it worth it?" He didn't reply. The flash of the camera caught his vacant gaze, a man without family, faith, or control. And as courthouse doors shut on him, America had already made up its mind. The Kody Brown saga was finished. Courthouse steps were filled with flashing cameras, chanting slogans and hum of breaking news notification. Christine, Janelle, Meri and Robyn remained apart from each other. But for the first time in decades, they weren't standing behind Kody Brown. The verdict was sealed. Polygamy, the basis of their existence, their passion, their suffering, was at last officially over. Kody's name would be forever linked with the ruling that brought it to an end. And yet, for the women who had ever shared him as husband, this wasn't merely an ending. It was the beginning of something entirely new. For the first time, Christine whispered to the camera crew, her voice shaking but firm, "We can breathe." When the cameras finally departed the courthouse, the women parted ways. Christine drove home silently, her phone flashing with messages of encouragement. Thousands of women in America were calling her courageous. There were even those calling her a hero. She gazed out at the westering sun over Flagstaff and smiled weakly. For the first time, the world wasn't ridiculing her. It was listening. Janelle sat on her porch all that evening, a cup of coffee in her hands. She wasn't thinking of revenge or money. She was thinking of peace and rebuilding the family she always wanted, but never really had. Meri went back to her secluded inn in Utah. She'd been alone for so long, but this time, the quiet didn't sound hollow. It sounded earned. And Robyn, once the most loyal to Kody, sat in her car, tears streaking her face. She had defended him to the bitter end, but deep down she knew. He didn't just lose the case, he lost us. When the storm ends, it doesn't erase the wreckage. It reveals who learned to survive it. Within hours, every major news network replayed the verdict. Polygamy officially struck down in historic Brown case. Talk shows argued whether or not justice had gone too far, or not far enough. Fans overwhelmed social media with messages. Christine finally got justice. Meri deserves peace. Kody destroyed himself. Even retired TLC producers gave interviews, conceding they'd witnessed the cracks for years. One producer revealed, "We knew Kody's ego would explode one day. We just didn't expect it to happen in court." It was no longer a reality show. It had evolved into an extension of America's changing perceptions of love, freedom, and equality. And across the nation, everyone was discussing the court ruling that ended polygamy for Kody. Christine's home in Utah became an icon of autonomy. She began hosting intimate parties for women who had escaped abusive relationships. The media referred to her as a spiritual guide for survivors. In a single interview, she spoke softly, "I don't hate him. I just finally love myself more than I fear him." She made her first public statement on Instagram. "Freedom is not a sin." It was liked more than 1 million times in 24 hours. Her daughter stood behind her, tearful and beaming. It wasn't revenge anymore. It was legacy. Christine's freedom wasn't a headline. It was a revolution wrapped in forgiveness. Janelle began anew in Flagstaff. She didn't return to TV. She returned to where it all began. She opened a healing retreat named Second Sunrise, dedicated to recovery from emotional and spiritual abuse. She addressed a gathering of women, some born into polygamy, others from shattered marriages. Everybody thought love was endurance, but genuine love is choice. The crowd stood and applauded. In the background, Janelle had secretly bought a portion of Coyote Pass property, same property Kody previously declared his kingdom. It was now hers. When asked by a reporter how it felt, she smiled softly and replied, "It feels fair." Justice didn't ruin Kody's dream. It just gave it to those who deserved it. Meri had a longer path to recovery. She'd been the first to legally marry Kody and the first to lose it all. But upon leaving the trial, she reopened her family inn, the one her mother gave her, and redubbed it One Heart Lodge. She extended an invite to Christine and Janelle to come by. Cameras caught the three women hugging, smiling softly and laughing. It was like closure, not the kind from television, but the kind where you weather the same storm and find the sun finally. Meri spoke directly into the camera and said something that reached millions. "I used to think I was the forgotten wife, but now I understand. I was the foundation." The clip went viral overnight. Sometimes the quietest hearts carry the loudest stories of survival. Robyn Brown stayed quiet for weeks following the verdict, until one emotional interview flipped everything. Sitting with a national talk show host, tears filled her eyes as she confessed, "I thought loyalty meant to defend him no matter what, but I discovered loyalty to truth is more important." The host asked whether she still talked to Kody. Robyn shook her head. "He's not ready to face what he's done, and I'm not ready to carry it anymore." It was a heartbreaking moment, and yet a freeing one. The woman once seen as his favorite finally chose herself. The greatest betrayal is realizing the truth too late, but the greatest victory is choosing it anyway. Kody Brown disappeared from the public eye. Rumors swirled that he'd moved to Nevada, living in isolation. His YouTube apology video went viral for the wrong reason. Furious meandering, blaming the system and the media. But for the first time nobody was listening. His voice, which once held the attention of millions, now reverberated into thin air. He was now the poster child for a law he did not create, and the cautionary tale of a dream based on domination. The court decision turned more than a legal precedent. It set off national debates on religious freedom, women's rights, and emotional abuse. Legislators used the Brown case as the model for new reform. Talk shows discussed its effects. Churches preached about it in sermons. And on the internet, people started using a new term, pulling a Kody, or losing everything by attempting to control everyone. It went pop culture, a lesson wrapped in drama. History doesn't remember who had power. It remembers who used truth to break it. Months afterward, the four women met in secret in Utah. No cameras, no scripts, no crowd, just peace. Christine arrived with flowers. Janelle arrived with food. Meri arrived with candles. And Robyn, in quiet, brought an apology. They sat together as the sun set behind the red cliffs. Four women once tied to the same man, now tied to their common freedom. "We're finally free," Christine breathed. Janelle smiled. "No more waiting for his okay." Meri nodded quietly. "No more acting as if we were happy." Even Robyn laughed softly with tears. "No more lies." The four women clinked glasses, not to retribution, but to peace. And somewhere far from that moment, the reverberations of a courtroom still remain, where one man's empire crumbled, and four women emerged from its embers. Ultimately, polygamy did not cease because of a law. It ceased because love finally mustered the strength to leave. And as the screen goes dark, the voice of the narrator becomes gentle. So what do you think? Did justice really win? Or did Kody Brown lose everything on his own terms? Tell us in the comments. Was this the end you were hoping for? Or one he deserved? Don't forget to subscribe, share, and like, because next week we reveal the secret files Robyn tried to hide. You won't believe what we discovered.